Bible reading, Ezekiel 34, shepherd the flock. And the word of God occurred to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy, and you must say to them, to the shepherds, this is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. Woe to the shepherds of Israel, who become feeders of themselves, and not the flock that the shepherds ought to feed. The fat one you eat, and with the wool you clothe yourselves, and the plump animal is what you slaughter. The flock itself you do not feed, the sickened ones you have not strengthened, and the ailing one you have not healed, and the broken one you have not bandaged, and the dispersed one you have not brought back, and the lost one you have not sought to find. But with harshness you've had them in subjection, even with tyranny. And they were gradually scattered because of being no shepherd. So they became food for every wild beast of the field, and they continued to be scattered. My sheep kept straying on the mountain, and on every high hill, and on all the surfaces of the earth my sheep were scattered, and no one was making a search for them, and no one was seeking to find. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Jehovah. As I am alive, is the utterance of the sovereign Lord. Surely for the reason that my sheep have become something for plunder, and my sheep continue to be food for every wild beast of the field, because there was no shepherd, and my shepherds, they did not search for my sheep. But the shepherds kept feeding themselves with my own sheep. They did not feed. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of God. This is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah has said. Here, I am against the shepherds, and I will certainly ask back my sheep from their hand, and make them cease from feeding my sheep. And the shepherds will no longer feed themselves, and I will deliver my sheep out of their mouth, and they will not become food for them. For this is what the sovereign Lord has said, I myself will search for my sheep, and I will care for them. And according to the care of one feeding his drove in that day of the coming to be the midst of his sheep that have been scattered abroad, that is the way that I shall care for my sheep. I will deliver them out of the places to which they have been scattered, in the days of the clouds and the thick gloom. And I will bring them out of the peoples, and collect them together from the lands, and bring them into their soil, and feed them on the mountains of Israel, by the stream beds, and by the dwelling places of the land. And a good pasture I shall feed them. On Israel's high mountains at their abiding place will come to be. And they will lie down in good abiding place. On fat pasturage they will feed upon the mountains of Israel. I myself shall feed my sheep, and I myself will make them lie down, is the utterance of the sovereign Lord Jehovah. The lost one I will search for, and the dispersed one I will bring back, and the broken one shall bandage, and the ailing one I shall strengthen. But the fat one and the strong one I will annihilate. I shall feed that one with judgment. And as for you, my sheep, this is what the sovereign has said. Here I am judging between a sheep and a sheep, between the rams and the he-goats. Is it such a little thing that you men on the very best pasturage you should feed, but the rest of the pasturage you should trample down with your feet? And with the clear waters you should drink, but the ones left over you should befoul by stamping with your feet? And as for my sheep, on the pasturage ground trampled by your feet should they feed? And the water befouled by the stamping of your feet should they drink? Therefore this is what the Lord has said. Here I am. I myself shall certainly judge between a plump sheep and a lean sheep, for the reason that with your flank and with your shoulder you kept pushing, and with your horns you kept shoving all the sickened ones until you scattered them outside. And I will save my sheep. They will no longer be something for plunder, and I will judge between a sheep and a sheep. And I will raise up over them one shepherd, and he must feed them, even my servant David. He himself will feed them, and he himself will become their shepherd. And I myself, Jehovah God, will become their God, and my servant David, a chieftain in the midst of them. I myself, Jehovah, has spoken, and I will conclude with them a covenant of peace, and I will certainly cause the injurious wild beasts to cease out of the land, and they will actually dwell in the wilderness in security, and sleep in the forest. And I will make the surroundings of my hills a blessing, and I will cause the pouring rain to descend in its time. Pouring rains of blessing will prove to be, and the tree of the field must give its fruitage, and the land itself will give its yield. and they will actually prove to be on their own soil insecurity. And they will know that I am Jehovah when I break the bars and the yokes that have delivered them out of the hand of those who have been using them as slaves. And they will no longer become something for plunder for the nations. And in regards to the wild beasts of the earth, they will not devour them, and they will actually dwell in security, and no one will make them trouble. And I will raise up from them a planting for a name, and they will no more become those taken away by famine in the land, and no longer will bear the humiliation by the nations. And they will have to know that I, Jehovah, am their God. I am with them, and they are my people. The house of Israel is the utterance of the sovereign Lord Jehovah. And as regards you sheep, the sheep of my pasturage, you are earthly man. I am your God, is the utterance of the Lord.